Welcome back. Our next guest says he has a guide to navigating both air travel and life, and he presents it with humor, grace, and direction. Brandon Blewett says he's been obsessed with aviation since he was a kid. He never became a pilot, but as an adult, he flies across the country about every week for work. So he wrote this book about the quirks of traveling as well as the ups and downs in life. It is called How to Avoid Strangers on Airplanes. And Brandon joins us now with more on his book and his experiences too. It's so great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, Molly. It's great to be here.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard us talking about your book and air travel earlier, but I have to know what inspired you to write this book.
When you travel every week for work, you often need healthy habits and outlets so that you don't become one of those viral passengers. So this book was a creation of that in a bit, but it's also a look at how we can apply the annoying habits and the encounters we have at the airport to our professional journeys as well.
See, I love that. So it's sort of like after observing people all this time, you made not just these observations in airplanes and in airports, but about life itself, because you say it's sort of like what you see there is sort of like a mirror to our everyday lives. How so?
It is. Well, when I think about, say, gate lice, I center the book on the 6 habits of highly annoying travelers. And you think about gate lice, people that are crowding the boarding area. Oftentimes in life, it feels like people are trying to crowd us out. So how do we deal with those situations? Or a favorite of mine, the backpack wrecking crew, someone that walks down the aisle, does not realize that they have something attached to their back, and spins around in the aisle like they're at a Zumba class, and then everybody around them has a black eye. How often do we face setbacks, whether it's a recession or other issues and obstacles that we face, and there are ways to overcome it. So I start at the beginning of the boarding process, and then we work our way through the eager exiter, who is the person in row 22 who stands up, puts their bag in the aisle, while the people in rows 17 and 18 need to get to the back to retrieve their bags.
Oh yeah, I know those people in row 22 that you're talking about. Absolutely. One of the things, so our sound off question today is, do you like to talk to people on planes? And I shared that I really don't. I don't mind being friendly, but a lot of times I just want to chill. And I think people have different expectations. And I think it's a matter of sort of respecting people and being able to read cues. And I think one of the most fascinating things about people are those who seem to not ever be able to pick up on the cues that we're trying to politely share.
Agreed. And I think that, to your point, one of the things that I've done, and you mentioned you put in your headphones, you maybe open a book. And I will say I've had friends that have bought the book and say, I just open it because the title alone prevents someone from wanting to talk to them. But I have found that sometimes when I'm just beat down from a tough work week, I will say, I need a minute, and just politely let them know that I'm not trying to be rude, but I need some time to myself. And I would say 9 times out of 10, people get the hint. But yeah, one of the reasons I wrote the book was that I think that if people understand these annoying habits and we stop committing themselves, then it'll be a more pleasant experience for everybody.
Well, and to your point, our producer joked earlier today, if you want to avoid talking to people, get your book, open it up, and kind of show it to the people who need to read the title. What to you, because you mentioned the 6 most annoying habits of travelers, which one is number 1 on your list?
It varies based on the type of travel or the week that I've had. I think the most annoying, and I think that you alluded to it earlier in the segment, was what I call the conference call decibully, and that's somebody that is in, say, row 5, and if I'm seated in row 24, I've heard enough of their quarterly earnings meeting that I can submit notes in PowerPoint and maybe send them an invoice for those notes by the end of the flight. The easiest to fix to me is the eager exiter. I feel like there used to be an unwritten rule that we waited to put our bags in the aisle until maybe 1 or 2 rows ahead of us were there. And I think if we all went back to that, that would be something that's easy to fix.
Well, we teased this earlier. What are some things that you think we should be packing to make traveling better, easier, more friendly for our experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what I would suggest is make sure that in a small carry-on you have 24 hours of clothing, medication, chargers, anything that are the essentials, your toiletries. So that way, if there is a mishap with the checked baggage, you've got enough on you to get through 24 hours. Hopefully you can, wash the clothes that you have. So maybe you can make it another day. Because I think that's where people get really frustrated is they get somewhere and they feel completely stranded and they're having to run to the store to buy those things to cover for just a day. Put it in a small carry-on that you can put under the seat in front of you.
One of the other things that I find particularly troubling, because I have a daughter who lives in New York, she's never gone anywhere where there haven't been massive delays, especially if she has a connecting flight. And I feel so often being on a plane, and this happened to somebody that I know recently where they said, well, in just a little bit, we're going to turn the air on. It's hot. It's stuffy. And you literally think, especially if you're there for quite a long time, you're going to crawl out of your own skin.
Yeah. I think that what I would suggest there is typically to avoid delays, take the first flight out of the day. It's generally that aircraft has arrived the evening before, and so you're less likely to have any mechanical issues. And then it's going to be super early in the morning, so the plane's likely to be a little bit cooler because the outside temperatures are not quite as hot yet.
That's a good point. I mean, it's kind of common sense. Last, I'm going to ask you this. What strategies do you use, especially with as much as you travel? Because sometimes traveling is super stressful. It's emotional for different reasons. If you're leaving someone or you're stressed because of what you have planned with work, how do you stay calm? What do you do?
I think the biggest thing that I do is remove myself from feeling like it's happening to me. I think that there used to be this sense that air travel and airports and airplanes, they were great for people watching. So I think that if your mindset shifts to, I'm viewing this as a show or a movie, it's actually quite entertaining and you can actually laugh at a lot of the scenarios that are playing out in front of you. And that to me, once it's not, this is happening to me, it's I'm viewing something, it makes it much more enjoyable, and it also takes out some of the angst that people feel when they're traveling.
Yeah, because that you feel like a lack of control a little bit. It sort of puts it back in your hands and you can take a deep breath. I like that. Brandon, thank you so much. I got to get a copy of your book. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was great. And again, Brandon Blewett's book is called How to Avoid Strangers on Airplanes. So you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo.